Hi, Kit Falbo here, author of The Crafting of Chess, some poetry. Um, Also, I'm autistic and I like to focus my interest on the craft of writing fiction. And today I'm going to talk to you about crafting unreliable narrators and my opinions on that in fiction and writing in general. I'm going to go through an overview of basics and how to do it, basics of my opinions on it. Hopefully, you find this interesting and join my Patreon or follow me on Twitter or buy a book or two. Well, I shouldn't sell myself too much. Okay, now, unreliable narration, in my opinion, is basically the idea that the person telling the story is not consistent with the reality of the story. And now, this can be a major plot point in which the big reveal is that they are unreliable, or the insidious creeping nature of the book is that they are unreliable. And when I talk about unreliable, I'm saying obviously disjointed with reality. It can be that the main character is a sociopath and you slowly pick up on it or it's revealed. It could be that the main character is depressed and is not picking up on people actually liking them or showing interest in them. It can be just their view of the world. And as a non neurotypical person, I kind of live in a state of unreliability to my own life. And I'm often interested in writing non neurotypical characters anyway, so they all have their slightly different unreliability. Now, this is mostly the case when dealing with a first person perspective. Now, primarily unreliable narration comes into play with a story that is being narrated by a character, either telling a story in third person or being a first person narration. And my opinion is that when that is the case, there's always some level of unreliability in the story, or at least there should be in order to make the story feel more realistic. Because when somebody is telling a story or perceiving a world in their own personal view, um, it's going to be have little inconsistencies or turns of phrases that don't quite match. Um, to quote my father on a quote that kind of infuriates me is that everybody creates their own reality. Now, this infuriated me for different reasons because it was used as an excuse to allow unsavory ideas in the family, um, particularly having to do with things like fluoride in the water or anti-vax. Things that you could use in fiction writing as well, but they're clearly unreliable, and I feel that, I mean, there is some point in calling out unreliability, but this is true in writing. The main character is creating this world and telling it to you, and you are seeing this unreliability in the story. It can happen in third person omniscient as well when it's close third, and you're doing more of a window view of that character's unreliability, and sometimes you'll use like dialogue or emotional tags to reveal that to the reader. But I find that it is more of a cur thing to ones that are being told by somebody that has a personality. And when you have a personality, things don't always match up. And at least that's my theory on the unreliability of narration. Um, I'm going to go through some basic ways to demonstrate how to make a narrator seem unreliable. You have the narrator state a known falsehood, something that is generally known as false. You can either have it be known as false to the reader, either through a prologue or some other previous setup, or you can have it be known to be contrary to the facts of reality. You could set it up as something that is proven false later. For more erratic, unreliable narration, you could have the narrator contradict themselves, something that they said previously. They said it was one way before, and now it's a different way now. You could have, depending upon the setup in between those 2 points, you could have it show an erratic nature, or a change of opinion, and that's a good way to demonstrate unreliability. Um, Often having the character use hyperbole, be extreme in their descriptions of things, is a good way to just demonstrate an unreliable nature to the narration. You can also foreshadow the unreliability with prose and theme. Oftentimes, how a character speaks or describes certain things in a scene, often related to their own interests, demonstrates that this is not a straight up clear window pane style of storytelling. Even if 99% seems that way, that there should be this little bit of, oh, that's an interesting description. Wonder why the narrator or character is using that. Um, Another way is also kind of a setup is you have the narrator begin in an unreliable location or a profession or with an action. Oftentimes, if the narrator is a criminal, um, they are there's often genre tags. So if you're writing in a certain genre that often has unreliable narrations, there's often some level of expectation to that unreliability, and you can use little genre hints that are common in the genre you're writing. Often suspense or mystery or thrillers have those in them that you can kind of built in and have the reader go like touch their nose and go, I know that. Having the narrator tell you that they're unreliable, it's very common in movies or stories. They'll tell you that. I think Fallen. I don't know if any of you've seen this Denzel Washington uh, thriller with devils or demons, whatever. A long time ago, kind of had that unreliable nature where they kind of tell you stuff at the beginning, And I really I enjoyed that movie. It's kind of a B-list movie, but I find it's a good example of some level of built-in unreliability. You can also have the side characters comment on how the narrator is unreliable, even if the narrator themselves denies it. As a good way to show unreliability is that everybody else is telling you that this person is unreliable. You can hear it through the narrator hearing it, even though there might be some disconnect. And oftentimes you'll see a disconnect being a key bit of unreliability in your fiction. Now, so you're writing a story and you want to figure out how you use one of those tools to make your character unreliable. And like with any story, you want to have some level of consistency to the dialogues and the actions and the nature, and unreliability is kind of like another thing that you want to add consistency to that writing. So you kind of work it in that this character is consistently a certain way of thought, and I feel like that's like a good basic aspect of characterization, is having that unreliability. Now, as for crafting the specific plot and the reveal of unreliability, um, that becomes more of a plot point. That means you are having the unreliable be the plot, the part that is interesting in the story. Either it messes up their life, or you're, like I said, they are really the person who has done all these awful things, and it's kind of a reveal, and that can be one of the more difficult things to do when you're crafting unreliability, because you want enough foreshadowing that it's not a complete out of nowhere surprise, but you want it to have some level of consistency as well throughout the story, have it be a reveal. And that's really a balancing act that is tricky. And the best way, obviously, is to read books that have that happen in it. You know, it's okay to borrow some aspects to learn how other writers do it successfully by reading books that are successful in that aspect or watching movies. Um, and I think that's honestly the best way to learn to do this. I don't really have any tips for things you can do in real life to build unreliability, except for maybe practice some mindfulness and recognizing yourself when you are being unreliable, when you are lying to yourself, when you are depressed and feeling that nobody likes you and you know that's not really the case. And just having that kind of mindfulness is a good way to practice. I'm not sure exactly if, I mean, you should practice mindfulness anyway, but I'm not sure how well that builds the craft. You know, I often find that reading books and looking at characters and deciding how this character lies to themselves. So it's probably even better to have your own main character or narrator practice mindfulness in your mind. Use some of that advanced writing empathy, get in the character's head, go through a mindfulness process for that character. And you don't have to use this in the book. In fact, oftentimes it's better to have that character acknowledge it in this little project, and then you, whatever secret that they've acknowledged, you work into the story. It's a little writing exercise if any of you want to do that. And you will find that your story will be deeper and richer the more of this unreliability you work in, the more real feeling it is, even if you're in space or in a virtual reality video game or in anything. You know, I mean, part of this is having that level of depth to your characters, to the situation, so that no matter how crazy and fantastical, and if you've read my books, I like crazy and fantastical, that you can, that people can feel that level. I mean, it's almost like the iceberg level of world building, where you have enough to build the world and a lot underneath it, but use that with the characters' personality and ways they are lying to themselves. You know, it doesn't even need to be a major plot point. Now, so I mean, I've talked about some of the basics of crafting unreliability, and I'm going to continue on and doing my theories on fiction and how I feel it should work to help make anybody who watches this a better writer. If you want, you can like this video, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. I sometimes show up in chat on Twitch, on Reddit. Um, you can go to my Patreon. I appreciate any support. Read my books. I mean that's always a great thing, and then recommend them to people. Um, I hope you enjoyed this video. Um, if you're watching this, and I hope you have a wonderful day.